I work for Ricardo and I'm a member of Greater Brighton Economic Board and Greater Brighton Infrastructure Panel. And my question, was on there and it's bounced around, how will we meet the challenge by government to become carbon neutral, probably for 2050, if it's not too late, and thrive economically? We've heard a lot of economic data, but we haven't heard the environmental argument.
That's a great question. Who would like to take that one? Jonathan, do you want to start?
I'd love to. I mean, I don't have the straight answer to it, Andrew. You'll be maybe disappointed to hear, but it is absolutely the question to ask. And I think within local industrial strategies, what government is saying is they want to see how regions are going to approach clean growth. That's the phrase they're using. Now, many different parts of the country are interpreting that in different ways. You know, if you're a major industrial part of the country like Humberside, it means something very different to an area like ours. If you're an area like the southwest with the Hinckley Power Station, they've got a completely different opportunity to us. The ideas I am very interested in are our patterns of travel and our patterns of commuting within the region, because actually one of the largest generators of carbon is people's private cars, and you know the extent to which so much travel in the region is dependent on car use is very interesting. I think there's something about future planning and the extent to which local plans are anticipating and building that in. Across this region, wherever you are and whatever people's political affiliation is, there is a huge interest in maintaining the beautiful environment that we live in. And I think there's something there about the model of growth in our region that puts, you know, protecting the environment first, because I think wherever you live, people do see a beautiful environment out of the window and they want to protect it. But it's absolutely going to be one of the themes to work on and a possible candidate for the golden thread that Claire identified.
I mean, we've been doing these strategies for sort of 15 odd years, and that low carbon piece, environmental sustainability piece, was always something you thought about, but it sort of happened over there, and you did it to make yourself kind of feel better. It's kind of fundamental now. I think it's the number one priority for any economic strategy, and it has to be fundamental in what you're thinking about in the buildings that you build, in how people travel to work, in the businesses that you encourage to invest in your area. It's kind of fundamental. There are great examples of cities and regions, certainly in Europe, that have done this very well. If you want a really great example, practical example, there's a business park near Schiphol Airport called Park 2020. It is 100% reusable or biodegradable. So when that business park ceases to exist, there will be no carbon impact from its existence. They're the sort of ideas that you need to be thinking about as you develop your LIS. And I think the LEP has to be here to challenge you to think harder about that.
I think, as you say, it's a very good candidate for a golden thread, but actually thinking about sustainable growth rather than low carbon as an alternative to growth. I think it's quite interesting that we are moving as businesses from doing what we want to do to grow and then offsetting our impact to actually thinking about how do we build positive purpose into our businesses in the first place, and how do businesses like Ricardo lead that environmental future through the development of, whether it's electric engines or whatever that might be. So I think there's a huge amount of opportunity to work with business so that low carbon doesn't mean low growth. And I think we have a lot of opportunities as a region. We have some more questions on here, which is great. Let's have a look. How do we better engage SMEs in the digital sector with young people and teachers to feed aspiration and opportunity to young people?
Say that again, sorry.
How do we better engage SMEs in the digital sector with young people and teachers to feed aspiration and opportunity to young people? So it's about connecting business with
yeah,
digital.
I mean, the importance of engaging young people in the opportunities of working in this region is a constant theme of the job that Coastal Capital does through our enterprise coordinators and all the businesses we have working in schools around the region. But as Chris's population graph showed very, very powerfully, this is a region that young people leave, and this is a region that does not attract its fair share nationally of 20, 30-somethings. People come when they're older, but they don't come, you know, when they think of themselves as young. I mean, we all think of ourselves as young on one level, but, you know, genuinely young. So the role of businesses that can grab people's attention is key, and if that's digital businesses, small businesses, or any other kind of business, so much the better. But what people need to be able to build a life here is a good income and a good salary, because it's an expensive area. So businesses that can offer good career development, good skill training, a good path to future, an escape from a 2-hour commute to London every day to earn a decent salary. I think those businesses will be successful, but young people are absolutely the key to it, because that's where the future workforce is coming from.
I think Wired Sussex have done some really interesting stuff on this, on careers. The one thing that I always think about when we get involved in skills studies is it just needs to be more exciting and a bit more dynamic. We sort of tend to think, well, you go to university, get out of university, right, go and get a job. If you don't get a job, then, you know, you've somehow how failed. But it becomes a very formulaic process to what is the thing that people do with most of their time. And I think just being more positive about careers, both in terms of the businesses themselves talking about the opportunities that they have, but also engaging young people is really important. And I think the careers and workforce development process at the moment just feels a bit dull, and that's not here, that's in the country as a whole.
I do believe Coast to Capital actually has an initiative which connects businesses with schools as well. What's that called, please? So let's all get involved in the Enterprise Advisor Network. And I think we have 100 businesses here today. And the reason I got involved with Coast to Capital is that for some of these challenges, the LEP can't fix it on their own. As business leaders, we've all got to get involved. So I think getting more of your friends and colleagues actually involved in helping to fix this is a really good way forward. So it's great that we've got so much engagement here today. We have a great question here from Jeremy Taylor. Can you talk about how you might encourage foreign direct investment and support local businesses in their post-Brexit international ambitions?
We do have to think about how we as a region are going to be known nationally and internationally. There's some really exciting things happening in other parts of the country. For example, in Manchester, there's another business park by Manchester Airport, which is designed and built with the Chinese market in mind. So, you know, designed as the place that Chinese businesses will come to in the UK if they want to establish a presence in the UK. And coincidentally promoted by the Premier League clubs that are in Manchester, which have very strong brand presence in China. So, you know, there are, it's not an easy thing to do, but we absolutely have to look at ourselves and work out what does this region offer, which no one else offers. Now, we have the airport, we have Brighton and Hove, we have a number of places within the region that are of national, international significance. We're actually in one of them today. You know, there's brand recognition for Epsom Racecourse all around the world, given what it does, what happens here. We just need to get a lot better and be a lot better organised and a lot more purposeful, I think, in how we get our act together. Because as the slide showed, foreign investment, especially in the world of Brexit, foreign investment will drive much of the economic growth in the UK. So we have to make sure it comes here rather than going to the big cities of the North and the Midlands, which it will otherwise naturally flow to. So that would be my view.
I think that also touches on the brand for our region. So when large multinationals are considering where to site their headquarters, what do they think of when they think of us? They probably don't think of us at all. We need to change that. But with Gatwick, we do have an opportunity. We need the space, but also from a small business perspective, actually small businesses can help each other. So there's a lot of businesses in Brighton that help each other with US exporting, for example. And the Escalator programme supported by Coast to Capital brings small businesses together to share their learnings, and I think that could also be a key area of help. Did you have anything to add to that, Chris, or shall I jump to the next?
Jump to the next one.
So what's top of the... Oh, here we go. So let's pick one here. I'm going to pick the second one while I decode the first one. Are there new revenue funds for rural skills and business support?
I think this is. I think the straight answer is no. And I should have been more clear in my presentation. Future funding to any region is not yet clear because of the circumstances around Brexit. But we expect the local industrial strategy to unlock future funding. So as we leave the EU, the European Structural Funds, which funds a lot of this work, will end, and the government has pledged to open up a new fund, a shared prosperity fund, that will deliver its regional strategy. Getting the local industrial strategies right is the right way to do that. And so that's what we're working very hard for.
And there's a great question here from Steve Sawyer that speaks to what we were saying about complacency and the perception that our region is all rosy, but actually under the surface not so much. The Coast to Capital LEP area is already highly successful and affluent. How much of an issue is this for securing support from government?
So we work on a lot of business cases to government. When you write a business case, you always write your reference case. What would happen if you don't make this investment or you don't deliver this policy. And I think actually articulating the reference case through the evidence we've collected is really important, because I think what we're seeing is kind of at best a flattening out. So whilst the area at the moment is pretty affluent and pretty successful, if we don't do anything in 20 years' time, then it will be less affluent and less successful. So you build your case on that scenario. And I think because there has been a bit of a decline in recent years, the headroom for growth is definitely there. So I think we can now, because we've got good evidence, we can start to build a more robust case for investment in terms of what this region can deliver for the UK as a whole.
And I think we're out of time, actually, aren't we? But thank you all for all your questions. And actually, those raise huge amounts of issues that we can all take back as a team and review. And please do talk to us a little bit later this afternoon about them as well. Thank you all very much. I'll hand back to Jonathan.
Thank you.